NBC TV18, another exclusive interview with you with the Railway Minister Suresh Prabhu, and Shireen Bhan is here to take us through that conversation. Shireen, take it away.
Well, hello and welcome to the NBC TV18 special as we continue our coverage of assessing the performance of the key ministries in the Modi government. Joining us today is the Railway Minister Suresh Prabhu. Mr. Prabhu, appreciate you joining us here on NBC TV18. It's a hot Delhi evening, 47 degrees, but thank you very much for joining us outside. Let me start by asking you about what you would put down as the key achievement for your ministry. I've got pages and pages of achievements that you've put out, but let me ask you to identify for us the key achievement. You know, there's stuff across sanitation, cleanliness, infrastructure, PPP, but that single biggest achievement that you would put down?
You know, first I would consider it as you correctly said, there are several, but I'm saying the journey has begun. So the train is definitely moving at a good speed and moving in the right direction. So that's the biggest achievement, because for a long time we have been seeing that the problems of railways were well known, but we are always handicapped by the fact that we didn't want to address the problem by saying that these are the constraints. So we said, okay, we'll change the red lines, we'll go beyond the constraints and address them. One example is raising resources for the railways. Second is increase the speed of implementation, because we can always implement a project in 20 years, or we can do it in 3-4 years. And that's what we have started doing, as the speed has increased to almost 7.8 kilometers a day from something half of that. We'll go to about 19 kilometers a day in the next 3 years. That has happened because of multiple factors. One is because the delegation. Second, now we are ready with about 5.6 lakh crores of projects which were not there last year. When I said 77 projects were announced, I was sticking my neck out, because they were the projects which are necessary for the railways. As you will recall, I became minister only in month of November, and then I had to present a budget in February. So by the time I realized what the problems of the railways were, then having identified those, realizing that we need to invest there, but no project report ready. But still I put it there, Parliament approved it, we got the DPR ready, then we got all the necessary sanctions made, and then it is there. So this year is not the case. This year we are ready with the projects, we are ready with funds, we are ready with delegated powers to the people. We are also have the confidence in the organization that they can do it, because they already spent quite a bit of it this year. So I am saying the next year will be better than this year. The year after next will be far, far better. In fact, I just gave this figure to Rajya Sabha the other day. In next 3 years' time, the amount of money that we will be spending on buying material, steel, cement and other stuff, will be few lakh crores. For example, we just gave our biggest order ever to the wagon manufacturers. Now the wagon manufacturer order is only in our books. They in turn will buy steel. They in turn will create employment. We are going to lay tracks, as I said, at 19 kilometers a day over a period of time. Would mean that much steel will be necessary. That much concrete sleepers will be necessary. That kind of cement will be necessary. So you can imagine the exponential growth that is going to happen in the year. So this year was a break from the past. This year was the beginning of a process. This year is a confidence building measure. This year was a capacity building measure. And this year is the beginning. The journey has begun, long way to go.
The journey has begun, long way to go. You gave me several figures there, so let me pick up on the figure of 5.6 lakh crore rupees. That's the identified project pipeline that you're working with. How soon can we expect implementation on that 5.6 lakh crore project pipeline?
You know, you must understand the life cycle of project implementation in railways. First, as I said, you have a lot of approval processes. Also, a lot of technicalities go into it. For example, the project we are doing now is like doubling. The doubling project involves creating a yard plan, because the train has to come there, train has to stop there. Also, the same next track, the trains are running. So you have to work next to that. So therefore, the project implementation has started. As I said, because of the processes that we are following now, because of changes that we have introduced into the system, I think in next year we'll be spending more than what we have estimated, 1,21,000 crore for sure.
In addition, spending more. How much more do you believe you'll need to spend, sir?
1,21,000 crore is something I have budgeted in my budget, but I think it will be definitely more than that. But also I must remind you, sometimes this point is lost. The capital expenditure is from the railways. Budget itself is not a capital expenditure railway is going to incur. This comes from various factors. For example, Now the high-speed railway, 1 lakh crore project, which will start 2023 is a commissioning date. So in the next 2-3 years, you'll see a substantial capex to be incurred on that. Dedicated freight corridor, tenders have been issued. So the capex that will really happen in the next year will be phenomenally high, 85,000 crore project. Then the diesel and electric locomotive manufacturing projects in Bihar, 40,000 crores. So all of that add up to, then we started the station development. And first, luckily, first tender has been issued in Bhopal, Habibganj. That itself will now bring in the new investment opportunity, like in Surat. 17 or 18 companies are bidding for it. So it all is put together. There will be capital expenditure coming from different streams, not just from one budgetary resource alone. So all of that put together, I am very sure what we had estimated for 5 years capex plan will probably be more over the 5 years period.
How much more will it be, sir?
I don't know right now, but I am saying definitely it looks like, see, there are certain things where there are variables. For example, the response for the station development, which has to come from the private sector. The new freight corridor we want to launch. They may not be, they could be launched in a sense, but capex may happen little later. So I am very sure over a period of time, every year you will see an exponential rise in the capex of the railways, not only coming from the one source of budget, but also from multiple streams, and that added together will add to the huge growth of GDP. As you will agree, and I am sure you are better than me in that respect, is that every rupee that you spend in the railways, the benefit to the economy will be 6 times higher.
Sure.
So whatever we spend here now is going to have a huge employment potential as well as growth for the economy.
Since we're talking about funding and we're talking about capex, you know, the LIC MOU has been done with. You've already got whatever the finance minister has allocated as far as the budgetary support is concerned. But outside of that, the last conversation that you and I had, you said the negotiations were underway with World Bank. You were hopeful of closing that. Where do things currently stand on talks with the World Bank are concerned?
You know, as I said, LIC facility is also a standby facility. It's like an overdraft. It's available to you if you want to spend the money, because that assurance of availability of money itself is a guarantee for implementation of a project. Because if you don't know when the money is going to come, automatically the project implementing team feels, you know, I don't know. And this is what has happened in railways. That's how the projects have suffered. So first, a guarantee of availability coming from standby facility. That's why it's 5 years, 30,000 a year, 1,50,000 crores. The World Bank is very willing. We had a long discussion with them. The facility, what we are thinking about is something like not just for the railways budgetary support alone, but it could be any development project in railways.
Okay.
For example, there's a new development, and this I must say that's why I was saying 8,50,000 crore, maybe even short, because Maharashtra, the 16 states, as you know, agreed with us that they will they will work with a joint venture with us. Now, of this, some states like Maharashtra, we already identified project worth 70 to 80,000 crore, including Mumbai. Now, this project also will go for implementation. Now, how do you get money for that? So, one is the debt equity ratio has to be decided. Suppose it is 1:3:1. In that case, we put in 25%, 12% by Maharashtra government, 12% by us. The remaining 75% has to come from some source. So that can also come from multilateral agencies, either bilaterally or through this fund that we are thinking of creating as a World Bank. That fund can invest into this project. Then look at some of the PPP projects, which are for the railways. Benefit is going to come to the railways. So those PPP projects also might need debt as well as equity. So those investment also come from this fund. So the nature of the fund will undergo a little bit of a change, not only for government spent projects, but projects for railways, either implemented by railways themselves through joint venture companies with state governments, or through our public sector undertakings, which is one of the important strategies for us, or as a PPP project.
Okay, that's an interesting idea. I want to pick up on the status as far as freight corridors are concerned, because this is what got a lot of people excited, and everybody is talking about the implications of these additional freight corridors that you announced in the railway budget, sir. Where do things currently stand? How soon can we expect forward movement? You have, of course, already articulated the capex plan that would be required for this to get off the ground.
You know, we have some tentative work started. I don't think this project will be started this year. It is not possible. But the necessary work to make it happen in the next few years' time will be started this year substantially. Because this is, a lot of planning is required. But this is a very critical backbone infrastructure necessary for many things to happen. Like Make in India, what is Make in India is going to happen is, we will be actually manufacturing a lot of manufactured goods in India. To make that happen, we need a lot of movement of raw material from the source or from the port to the manufacturing plant. Once you manufacture it, we'll have to also take it away from that to the market or to the port again for the export. So all of this is require a lot of movement of goods and material. So for that, we need backbone infrastructure. If you move all of that by road, implications of climate, the greenhouse gas emissions will be phenomenal. It will be costly. So to make it environment friendly, to make it cost effective, to also make it that it will have some assurance when it is going to reach you. Today, if you are moving the same freight, not on a dedicated corridor, but on a passenger corridor also, which is used for dual use, then in that case, there is no guarantee that goods will reach at time. And now in Japan, we talk about just-in-time inventory. And here you don't know, not just in time, but we know no time. How can it be? So therefore, that again is necessary. So this critical part of infrastructure necessary for Make in India, for increasing a base of manufacturing, is this freight corridor. So what I'm saying is this year, I don't think we'll start the work, but we'll actually start preparation to launch these projects in the next 2 years' time.
In the next 2 years' time. Dr. Panagaria has been going back and forth between Japan and India on the high-speed projects. I understand that a significant amount of the negotiations that are perhaps pending rest on the Make in India component of the deal. What can we expect then? How soon will we, cross the I's and, cross the T's and dot the I's?
See, what we have created is a institutionalized structure. That Dr. Panagaria, being a vice chairman of NITI Aayog, therefore in a way the neutral body. Also the finance ministry, the Ministry of Industry Promotion, I think, and railways, they together are actually talking to the ministry in Japan. The idea is that, of course, broad agreement has already been reached, but always there are fine-tuning and broad this. Japanese already agreed, and I must compliment them, that good part of that will be manufactured in India. They also agreed that the principal contractors will be also Indian in a substantial way. This is little bit a far more improvement than a model that we adopted earlier, even for dedicated freight corridor, which also is a JICA assisted project. So this is a very significant improvement over what has been agreed by the Japanese as a model in the past. So this is a very good development, very progressive development. We are moving ahead with this. The target is that we should try to run the train by 2023.
So there's still a long way off as far as 2023 is concerned. So let me come down to now more immediate concerns. And that continues to be on what happens as far as the freight side. And you expressed your inability to try and up the freight rate in your budget, and you are hoping that you will be able to do that. Of course, a lot of it will also depend on the state of the economy. What's your sense today? Because we are now, at least when you talk to people in the cement sector, you talk to people in the steel sector, they're seeing signs of a revival there. What's your own sense as far as freight is concerned?
But you are absolutely right. See, this is a complete externality to the railways. The railway is a transporter. So what railway should do is to keep itself ready to handle traffic. That was never the case in the past. In the past, all our customers were complaining that we have to chase you for getting wagons. Today it's exactly the opposite. We have created a customer service manager for each of the industry. So therefore our people are going and meeting them and telling them and finding out from them what is that they need. It probably for the first time they reduced the freight rate, not increased it at all. And we are based on the discussion that we had with the industry that we increase the volume, so we reduce the freight a little bit. So over a period of time, railways will also benefit. They will also benefit because more volumes will come to us. They will also pay a little less for that. So therefore their bottom line will also improve. And if our customers are not making profit, we can also not make profit. So this is very necessary. First time we have created 1.2 billion tons of cargo handling capacity is ready with the railways, which we did it not this year, last year itself. Because when we said, why should people chase us? We should be ready with it. Last year, we could not use it fully because the movement of some of the core sector commodities didn't happen as much as we wanted. But this year, again, we have been talking to our major customer, that's coal. More than 50% of the cargo comes from only one segment. And coal, we are ready to handle as much as they want us to pick up and handle. In fact, this year again, we handle whatever they wanted. Therefore, there is a huge stock available with the power companies. The coal companies also could mine out more because they have to be transported. So this is something which we are ready with this. So what we can do is to be ready with the capacity. And it's the first time that the capacity is ready ahead of the demand coming up. So I am sure the market is picking up. Things should improve.
What kind of volume impact uptick are you working with at this point in time? The visibility that you have today, sir?
You know, I feel aluminum industry is doing better, but volumes are not as large. The power industry, the coal demand from the power industry will rise only when the power consumption will rise. Hopefully that again depends upon the overall industrial pickup for the demand. I think that also is picking up slowly. Also, the cement and steel will depend upon again the growth in the demand that pick up. So in a way, railways will also create demand for them. So because when we start putting up new lines, everything, the more cement will be necessary. So railway is going to benefit by doing that, because then our customers also will start transporting more from us. So I think this core sector is necessary, but we have decided to change the strategy. We don't want to be dependent only on these few bulk commodities. That's too dangerous and too risky for a one customer approach. So same way we should not have only few commodities centric strategy. So we are trying to diversify the freight basket. We are also trying to increase the volume in some of the key areas like parcel business, but it takes time. See, these are only structural issues. The organization as large as railways cannot be changed overnight. But the beginning has happened. The member railway board, on my direction, has met each and every industry personally. There have been individual meetings taking place at the level of general managers. The targets have been given to general managers, to DRMs very specifically. They have been monitored on a weekly basis. We are trying to take corrective steps if necessary. For example, there was a port congestion charge, so we reduced it. There was a heavy season charge, we removed it. So we have taken a number of such measures. The benefit of that, I hope,
the volumes offset the
volumes
losses?
have to come up. But we have done that, and this is actually what the long-standing realization for everybody, that this freight and fare imbalance, cost subsidization has to go down. So cost subsidization process has started with the freight coming down, not increasing. So therefore we are not unduly burdening the real income giver to us. That's the cargo. So we are actually working on that. I hope the next few years time, this year again I hope that we are able to meet our target, which is depends on the economy picking up, of course. And I'm also sure that as we diversify the commodity, which will take time, but over a period of time that will also will benefit. We have started another thing, not to just depend on the revenues coming only from two sources, freight and fare. We are creating a new directorate, non-fare revenue directorate, non-rail revenue directorate. This will be creating revenue streams from various sectors, and as we see in case of Japan, the non-rail revenue is as high as 30%. In India, it is hardly anything. So that again is necessary for the long-term stability of railways finances.
It's very minuscule at this point in time, sir, what you get by way of advertising and so on and so forth. So what can be the realistic expectation? You spoke about it in the budget, but what is the realistic expectation as you look at what has been rolled out today?
You know, there has been an estimation. Again, you must also understand the budget for advertisement depends upon the bottom lines of the company. So even budget advertisement expenditure is directly related. As you know, even in media business you see that. So people, profitability has to rise. We are also helping them partly by reducing their cost of freight operation. But if the profitability rises, there will be advertising more. But advertising potential is good. We also want to tap the all other avenues of. So there is a clear-cut directorate which has been created for the first time. This again I am not very sure
whether you will see the result
will happen this year. It will take time because of structural issues. But the beginning had to be made. See, I know somebody else will say that I did it after a few years. But I must make a beginning. I am doing it in the interest of railways, not to take credit for myself.
Well, let me ask you also, since we're talking about revenue optimization and ideas to generate more revenues, on the land monetization front as well, sir, and also the target that you've set out as far as development or redevelopment of these railway stations are concerned. What is, again, the realistic targets? I mean, yes, you've given a number, but what do you believe can be done in this financial year?
I will tell you, I think this financial year, I am very sure at least, if not more, 10 must go on steam, because already one has already been awarded, the Bhopal Habibganj, Surat, etc. Already bidding has already happened. In most of the other stations, because it is delegated to general managers, they have had a pre-bidding conference. there has been a very complex process. So people are trying to understand what it is, the interest has to be generated, the economy has to pick up, builders are out for funds. So all of that should get cleared. But I think this year, not less than 10, in my opinion, should go. But all others would have advanced to some extent.
Okay.
So as you can see, the first year will be, say, if you call it as the first year, next year will be more, third year will be far, far more. So I think as we go, people understand the process, people understand the implication of it, the economy also grows, so people have more money available to them. The banking system also decides to finance it, because that's important. Again, coming back to the point that you raised earlier, the fund that we are thinking of creating could also be used for redevelopment of stations. I will also tell you another model that we are trying to work on. I have been talking to the states for joint venture companies. So I have been telling the states that why don't you also become partner for station development. Let me tell you the advantage. Delhi, I talked to Delhi Chief Minister, I talked to Maharashtra Chief Minister, most of the Gujarat. Most of the permission necessary for redevelopment of station will be with the state and with the municipal government. So what is that we can do sitting in Delhi without making them as partners? And therefore one of the reasons why it has not taken off as much faster is because of this. So if you make state governments partner, that's another dimension to station
Most
development.
states are under the BJP's rules today, so surely you can push them a little, nudge them, prod them to move forward.
One thing is the political dimension. The other part is that if you make them partner, they also realize that they are also going to benefit from it, they will do it. The third one, so one is a PPP, pure PPP. Second, as I said, PPP with financing from the fund. Third, state government partnership. And fourth, which is country to country.
Okay.
The country like Korea, country like China, country like Japan, even Germany, to France some extent, they are all saying that they are interested to help us with redevelopment of station.
Okay.
So there we'll do agreement not with any private company, but with the government to government, which is already there, the protocol has already been made. So I think we can take it forward. So there will be 4 different streams through which station development should happen.
Okay. So you're saying at least 10 should go through in this financial year?
I think
so. Okay. Land monetization, any forward movement on that?
You know, that's little more complex issue because most of the land the railway has, contrary to the belief, is largely on the side of the track. And because tracks are so large, this is one of the largest network in the world, it looks like it's a huge land. But that land to monetize next to the track is how do you do it? Because the trains are running there. So, on either side of the track, we should try to keep it vacant. So that's one part. But wherever it is available, for example, we are trying to do it, that's why I said we are starting private railway sidings. We can think about making warehouses. We are thinking about private freight terminals. So all of that we want to monetize in this way. I think some small part of land still could be left. I think we should first remove the encroachment of that. Because though it's on the paper, it is available to you, it is virtually not in your hands.
Sure.
So I think that again is an issue which I need to talk to the state government. We'll have to make a policy to rehouse some of the slum dwellers. Because to evict them, take them away is something which is impractical.
Right.
So therefore, I think we really need to work out with a policy. That's not just railways only as an entity. Central government as a whole may have to think about a policy to redevelop the land which is currently occupied, encroached by slums.
Okay. Let me ask you about the Railway Development Authority and where things stand on that, because this is again one of the ideas that you presented in the budget. How much work has been done now?
This is, as far as we are concerned, we had invited a lot of suggestions. All that is over. It's now with the legal people. We'll have to only decide 2 things, rather one thing, whether we should take a legislative approach or we should take it administrative approach to create one. So that process, the law experts on law will give us an opinion, then we'll go ahead with that.
Okay, so you're still awaiting opinion on whether you should
Only
take this to Parliament?
To avoid any more delays, because go through one process and then get stuck, then you cannot withdraw it either. So we are thinking about most expeditious and the most practical way of taking it out.
IRCTC, sir, you know, when we first did our interview when you took over, you talked about the possibility of an eventual listing, for instance, of the IRCTC, and you asked the question, why can't that be something that we work towards? Where do you think
I think we will have to, over a period of time, list all the companies. And I will just give one, if you give me 1 or 2 minutes. If we spend this huge capex only departmentally, there is no valuation benefit that comes to the railways. But just imagine we use some of the PSUs like RVNL or IRCON, and they actually incur the capital expenditure. Because of the volume going up, also the bottom line improving, the valuation of those companies will improve considerably. So if you divest part of their equity, once the valuation has increased considerably, the benefit of that will come to you in a very substantial way. So by doing that, whatever debt we are talking about, we'll be able to liquidate all that debt with a small divestment. Coming out, because we borrowed, we could spend more. Because we could spend more, the valuation went up. Because the valuation went up, part of the divestment money can be used for liquidation of loans. So loan, people feel is a problem. It's not really, because of that, the capex is improved, capex is improved, the viability of railways improved, and also because of all this, the ability of the railways to pay more to the borrower is also increases considerably. Now coming to the point of listing, I think we have already said in my budget speech, is to create a holding company. So all the different companies in the railway family will be held by this holding company. I think that's a good time to actually go in for a listing. So that is SBI Cap is helping us to prepare a complete concept for it. We have requested them to do that. More or less ready. So I think that again...
What's the timeline, sir?
I think this holding company is something which we'll have to go to the cabinet for approval. Once that is done, we'll take it forward.
So are you expecting to do that over the next few weeks, months?
A few months for sure, definitely.
And you believe that the holding company structure should be in place within this financial year?
Yeah, but as I said, this is a concept, has to be approved by the much bigger government entities, finance ministry, the cabinet eventually. But it's a concept we are trying to move forward.
Okay. Let me end by asking you, sir, what is the immediate priority? You've talked about the next few years, but what is the immediate priority at this point in time?
You know, this year is a year of moving on. Last year was the beginning. This year is a period of accelerating the pace. This is a year of consolidation. This is also a year of taking some of these critical structural measures. Like you said, development authority is a structural measure. Delegation was done last year. We want to institutionalize it. We want to create MOUs with all the zones. We did it 2 zones last year. We want to bring in more transparency into operation. We want to also actually bring in these cross-functional entities together. So we have created 2 directorates, but we'll create about more task forces. All of that should happen this year. And also accelerate the pace of implementation. This again will happen and we'll see a tangible results of that this year. So all of that put together, I think is a year of moving on, the year of consolidation, year of thinking ahead without forgetting where we started.
Mr. Prabhu, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate your time and we wish you the very best of luck as you move ahead and you move forward. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this CNBC TV18 special. From all of us here, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.